Hello, everybody. How are you? I'm doing good. I hope everybody's doing well. I have been immersed in a book, an audiobook, but a book still. And I've been reading a couple of other books that I need to finish. But my message today is on the audiobook that I'm reading because I am inspired by Jordan Peterson. I think we have matching brains, not matching education. Obviously, he's far more educated than I as far as college degrees, things like that. But when it comes to aligning of the minds and the way that I see the world, he very much emulates that to a T. And I've never met him. I hope to someday, even though I say that I'm inspired by Kevin Gates, that I probably don't want to meet him because I don't think morally we align. But Jordan, however, I want to meet. And I've even reached out to him before. I've emailed him before. He never answered me, but it didn't go directly to him. But still, I will not hesitate to reach out to someone. I am not intimidated by status or popularity or the amount of money someone has or celebrity. I will reach out to them. I think back when I was like a tween and I had my walls covered with, the boys that were cute and in the Teen Bop and the Tiger Beat and all of those magazines. I was, starting to have crushes on boys, but way too shy to act out on anything that was like, within my actual day-to-day crushes. So I focused on the ones that were far beyond reach, so I didn't have to worry about ever having to interact with them because they weren't ever around me. So it was more comfortable, but I did reach out to fan clubs, and I did hear back from a few of them directly, not just, a signed headshot or whatever. And so I don't think that anyone is out of reach. I think that you can reach out to anyone and actually make contact, even if they don't respond to you. Sometimes they will still see it, or even in passing, the person that received it might tell them about it. And so don't ever think that someone's out of reach or that they might not hear what you have to say through someone else. So if you have something to say, reach out. If you want to meet somebody, reach out. Go to hear them speak, There's nothing that's out of reach. I don't think that there's any ceilings at all. So, yeah, I do hope that I meet Jordan Peterson one day. I want to start the message off by talking about, from my last video, conspiracy theories. I don't want anybody to think that I am a conspiracy theorist, although I have been called one, because when you defend being a truther, as they say, for 9/11 and calling that out, which I was very vocal about, or when you're in political circles, a lot of times, especially being a libertarian, as I am, you will be faced with a lot of government and corrupt issues that come up, and in those circles you will see things that are undeniable, just very self-evident. They don't require a lot of evidence to know that you're being fed bull, and if you talk about those things, then you will be called a conspiracy theorist. But I'm not out here pushing for that cause. I did want to mention how when I was looking at the comments for the all women space thing that people are enraged about, that I had no idea that there was a conspiracy theory about Katy Perry being John Benet Ramsey. That was something new to me. I've been so far removed from political circles to where I would see new conspiracy theories, quote unquote, out there. And they catch fire because there's truth to them. So, if somebody was out here talking about something so abstract that it couldn't possibly be true, it wouldn't catch on. There would be no documentaries on it. There would be nothing to put in a documentary on it if there wasn't things to back up the possibility of such a theory, if it even is a theory. But So many people are talking about the space exploration thing. You don't have to go searching for that or to be in those political circles or see documentaries on it. That's why I did the video on it, because it is so mainstream that it's not even considered a conspiracy theory. People are talking about it so much. So I had to say something, because it's exciting to see that people are waking up and they're not just accepting what they're fed for face value and saying, okay, and take my rights because of it. Let me buy into what you're selling me so much, that I'm going to sell my soul or give all of my rights away or be so afraid that I need you to protect me, that I'm just going to do whatever you want me to do. Like, people are waking up to that, and it's a beautiful thing. Also, I've been inside for a few days, but I went out tonight to get dinner and I saw Tony. So if you're ever watching this, Tony, he is an old coworker from a pizza place that I used to work at, and I loved seeing you today. It was amazing, much like seeing my old coworker Dee a few weeks ago. Like, it warms my heart so much to see people that I had such a genuine, authentic connection to, and they were not people that see my light and appreciate it and tell me about it, without being jealous or having anything negative to say. They're just so appreciative of it. Talking about, I think Tony even told me once that there needs to be more me's in the world, and there are. They're just spread out. But for someone to say something like that, it's always going to stick with me. And every time that I see him, it's just love. There's no ill will. There's never been anything bad that happened between us. He's never crusaded against me in any way. And so I always just keep encouraging him and want to keep motivating him to keep being him, because he is awesome. And I don't always know if he sees that or knows that, but I've always seen it in him, and seeing him today was just amazing. So I hope you have all seen someone or embraced someone, either new or old, lessons or blessings, and learned from each other today, or done something kind for someone, even a stranger, because it multiplies. um, I also I wanted to mention a documentary on um, Hulu. I have a free month, so I've tried to like cram everything that I wanted to see in. The Bear is a good series. I love The Bear. That main character, he will always be Lip from Shameless, because I love Lip. But his name is Carmen in this series. But The Bear is good if you guys want to check The Bear out. I had to finish up The Handmaid's Tale because I've been immersed in that since the very beginning. So it's the last season, and I had to watch that. And I might do something on that. It's very inspiring as well. Kind of scary. It was so terrifying at first to know how that could actually happen. It rang true and caught on, much like the conspiracy theory documentaries, because you see how plausible it is for it to happen. And these things are based on biblical things. Like, they're mistreating and abusing and kidnapping and raping, all in the name of the Bible. And it's such a farce. The lady gets her finger chopped off by her husband for not obeying him, and it's just, the whole thing is a complete farce. But it's based, like, they justify it biblically in the series, and that's what made it so scary, because you're like, oh my gosh, are we coming to this? Is it coming to this? It could. It very well could. And it just keeps people vigilant and on their toes, because don't let anything slip by you that could gain traction and multiply into something huge that's not in a good way. That could be a horrific existence for humans. I don't think that will ever happen, but just knowing how easy it could be for the government to implement something like that, and how communist countries are not doing the exact same things, but could easily go in and just say, this is what's happening and you have no choice. So yeah, go watch The Handmaid's Tale, or finish it up, whatever. Last season is out. But I wanted to I speak about perspectives all the time. And there is a documentary on Hulu called Brats, and it was done by Andrew McCarthy, who was very much like a heartthrob in what they would call the Brat Pack back in the day. And I was raised on those movies, all of the John Hughes films, the 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, Breakfast Club, other ones not by him, but St. Elmo's Fire, Say Anything, all of those movies, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I was raised on those movies, so I loved Andrew McCarthy. I thought he was so cute. And so he did a documentary and went around getting everyone in the Brat Pack and people Brat Pack adjacent to give their perspectives on the term Brat Pack and what kind of stigma it put on people. And it's very interesting if you're interested in the perspective thing and shifting your perspective, because out of all of the people that he interviewed, he was very down on it and thought that it was a negative connotation, and just using the term brat took away from their talent and put them in a category to where serious directors and movie makers did not want to work with them because they were put in, underneath that term. And he identified with it in a negative way, and therefore it played out in a negative way in his life. And then Demi Moore, her take on it was completely the opposite, in that the writer who wrote the article, which the term was coined and then was spread and given to them as the Brat Pack, that he was just looking to better himself and to be salacious and have something stand out so that his he would get the next big article, he would get the next big opportunity in his career, and didn't take it seriously at all, and went on to do lots of huge films, as where Andrew McCarthy, who saw it as negative and as a put down, and then internalized that, then his acting career kind of fizzled out. So in each way that they all saw their perspective with that being put in that category, they all utilized it in a different way. And the ones that didn't take it negatively and shifted their perspective into, well, it's a good thing, a whole generation identifies with the Brat Pack and being wanting to have been part of the Brat Pack and in those movies and in the it crowd, or the it girl, or the popular cool kids. They were enamored by it, and it wasn't anything negative at all. But it's an excellent documentary as far as perspectives, and how when you adhere to a negative perspective, how you create your own reality within that perspective. But when you look at it as a positive, then you can skyrocket as far as success and create a whole different just reality for yourself that is infinite and has many good possibilities for your life. So anyway, check out Brats on Hulu. That was great. So the real thing that I wanted to talk about is the book that I've been listening to. It's called Who Wrestle with God. And just like God is Dead, or the example that I have about the Doja Cat song, where she says she's a devil, she's a bad little bitch, she's a rebel. Like, she's not saying, even though she's saying I'm a devil, she's not really meaning I'm a devil. She's calling out how people were calling her a devil, and people were, spreading rumors and gossip and all this stuff about her. And so she just owned it. She was like, fine, if that's what you mean, if that's what you want to call me, then I'll be that. I'll be whatever you want me to be. But that doesn't make it so. I'm still going to be my awesome self. I still have magical foresight. I still have this awesome energy. You're hating on me, but you're wanting to be me at the same time. Pick a side, and I'll own whatever, because I'm comfortable being me. I'm authentic in who I am. So she was actually saying she was the devil, but a lot of people that listen to that song or read God is Dead, or might even see the title to Jordan Peterson's We Who Wrestle with God as a negative. It's not. It's just a philosophy. It's just a take on it. It's just something that you look deeper into and not take it at face value, because he's going to pick it apart. We're going to unpack it, okay? So don't be turned off by that. I love him because, for one, he's very authentic. He doesn't go out here and try to be something that he's not. He's not flashy. He's not in his ego. He's not trying to build followers. He actually gained, he's from Canada. If you guys haven't seen my other videos where I've mentioned him, he's from Canada. He has a PhD in psychology. Um, People of the woke, and I don't mean like awake spiritually, so don't confuse it with that, but the woke community attacked him for not being open to every new thing that they were adhering to and crusading for. And he wasn't speaking out against it. He just wasn't being, I guess, all inclusive. And so in Canada, when someone basically complains about you for not being inclusive, then they will threaten to take your physician's license away. And so I'm not sure if he's still a doctor or not. I didn't look that up, but they threatened to take his doctor title away for not being all inclusive in the woke movement. Um, he is a Jungian psychologist, which is something that resonates with me because Carl Jung talked about shadow work. I very much talk about shadow work. I'm a psychology major. I only have like a semester to finish for my degree, and I will get it one day. And not because I believe I need to have it for anything, but because I spent so much time and so much hard work on it that it's just a shame that I have less than a semester, maybe more now because the curriculum changes and it's been so many years. I'm sure it's probably a little bit more now to finish it, but I would love to say that I completed that and that I finished it, even though life threw obstacles in the way, that I still didn't abandon it completely, that I got it. But anyway, those are ways that I resonate with him. I made lots of notes, so I might be looking down a little bit. But the He Who Wrestles with God, basically, it empowers me on the pursuit of my purpose. It is something that fires me up, and it came at a time, it came out last year, but of course, I have not been rich by any means or had a lot of extra money for anything, and so I didn't get to listen to this book on Spotify, which I only sign up for Spotify when I can get like a really good deal on like 2 months at a time. I think I had signed up for around Christmas. It was 2 months for like $1.99, and I think I recently signed back up when it was 2 months for like $9.99 or something like that. And then I'll go and cancel my premium subscription. But while I have it, much like my free trial with Hulu, I will cram as much in as I can so that I can get the most out of it before I'm charged. But so it went to audiobook and on Spotify, which is how I've listened to his other books. The what's it called? 12 Rules for Life, and then the Beyond Order 12 More Rules. So I knew that it was coming out and I was really excited about it, but I wasn't going to go pay for it because his books are thick and so they are not cheap. And so I waited till I could hear it on audiobook. And he's very academic. He was a professor at Harvard and in Toronto. So his lectures and the way that he speaks, I mean, lots of big words. So it can get very boring when you're reading it. It's a lot more interesting to hear, first off, the author in his own voice telling, reading his book to you. But I can do other things while I'm listening to it, and just the wordplay. But it's more interesting when you listen to it because I have had his books and I have read halfway through the first one, or no, the second one I had. I got the second book before I listened to the first book on audio. But anyway, I was not as interested in the book when I was reading it as when I heard the book because of the way that he speaks. That's very complex. So, and I love that. I love the depth of it, but it's just, it catches and holds my attention more when I'm listening to it. But yeah, I'm just so about my purpose, and it came at a time when I was, I've been in a lull with making my videos, and I need to spend time and like recalibrate my energy and just even out. Sometimes I'll take myself away from society. I talked about that with the moon cycles or the eclipse or just things being retrograde. Like, I'm very much into energy, and we are susceptible to that energy, just like the moon and the ocean. We're all connected. So it all plays a part, and I will sit things out in a heartbeat if it means that I'm going to have to go out in the chaos and deal with unnecessary drama. Like, I have far removed myself from that. I want no part of it. So it came when I was at a time, like, just perfectly at the right time when I needed something to inspire me. I needed something so that I don't want to go back and talk about narcissists, even if those videos are super popular, and get caught up in that algorithm, because so many people are affected by narcissism. I want to help them, but I've put out enough about that and other negative things that I needed something inspiring. And this book was it. And he's talked about God in his other books and quoted scripture, Cain and Abel. He talks about all kinds of things, but they're not the basis for it. But he, I know that he believes in God. I know that he is he's involved in Christianity, even though I don't think he's a devout, staunch Christian. But he does live his life by those principles, and has quoted many things in relation to his messages, as far as rules for how you should live your life and moral values and such. So I didn't know how deeply, and that's why I really wanted to get into this book. And I haven't finished it all the way, but I thought, let me just go and play devil's advocate and look at the Christian take on this. And just with one simple search, I found an article that made me want to do a message, because the way I knew if he aligned with me, if that was true and what this book entailed, if he aligned with me and my thoughts about Christianity and how it makes God small and how people are using it for self-serving purposes, and how I think that the church, if people still want to engage in that lifestyle, that it should be restructured and not hierarchy and not about money. And that if he aligned with me on any of those things, like he does on a lot of other things, which is why I like him so much, that Christians would hate him. So I just had to know once I got so far in and realized, oh, this is where he's going with it. And he doesn't say it, but it's very much like inferred. So as soon as I saw this article, and I only did one article, I'm sure there's lots out there, and I could go and dive deep in that rabbit hole and find many other Christian takes on it that would rip him apart, or try to. All I need, and being a Christian alone means that you should be, what would Jesus do? So you shouldn't go out there and try to attack anything. So they try to like walk the line and do it in a nice way and point out so many positives, but really they're trying to turn people against it because it doesn't align with their theology. And that's what this guy said verbatim. So I'll pull back and forth. But first off, he talks about in this book how we are made in God's image. He talks about consciousness. He doesn't exactly say the Christ consciousness, but he's talking about connecting with God and God being all inside of us, and how difficult it is for the masses to believe that God is inside all of us, even though we don't go around saying, I am God, that we are directly related and connected to source at all times, no matter what your wealth, your status, your celebrity, whether you're homeless, whether you're this, that, or the third. We are all part of God, and if we are all part of God, we are all connected. So just like everything and everybody is connected. So he talks about that, which I was like, okay, checking boxes with me. He talks about narcissists and how Adam in the Garden of Eden was a narcissist. He even kind of correlates that to Gaston in Beauty and the Beast and how he's a narcissist. He talks about prophets, nihilists, hedonism. He talks about God is dead for Nietzsche. He had quoted Nietzsche in his other books, but not God is dead. And so that wasn't a surprise. But hierarchy, and that the foundations of faith in the Western world, that God is the most high. He is basically, I think God is the only hierarchy that we should look up to. And he didn't say that, but it aligns when he's talking about hierarchy and how God is at the top if you do subscribe to hierarchy. And that is the only way that I would subscribe to hierarchy, is God being the most high. Talks about Jezebels, false idols, talks about how economic status in the minds of men will correlate into, well, why shouldn't I? Or why can't I? Like, if I have money, then I should be able, like, basically to do whatever I want and crap on anyone else, on humanity. Like, basically how my uncle thought about, and a lot of Republicans that I've met around here in this area will think about homelessness, about how we should just put them on a bus and ship them out because it's not my problem and it looks ugly and it's not pretty, and if we don't see it, we don't even have anybody else saying, I know that I don't have to do anything about it, and they are the lowest of the low to me. This is the way that he thinks, that if we just remove them from here, then it's definitely not our problem. Just take them and ship them out and make them someone else's problem, and just get rid of them. I don't want to see them, much less help them. That's what he says that he thinks economic status correlates to, that, well, if I have the money and I can, then why not? And it's not my problem, and I'll spend $24 million on a space mission to empower girls that will never be able to afford to do that, but I'm going to tell them that they can, even though they'll never have it. That's my take, by the way. He doesn't say that, but he talks about evil seeds bearing sour fruit, and this is where in the review for Christian magazine, it was Christianity Today is where the review was. A guy named Brad East, and he is a professor of theology. So that is what I'm going to talk about. But in the book, this is the, I guess the controversial part for Christians, is that he talks about how the Bible is like, people need a good story for others to relate to when being taught about morality, and not sure if all of the events in the Bible were literal. And like Jonah being the deepest, a quote from him is the deepest of all fairy tales, basically, like comparing it to fables and stuff like that. And deep human trials, but not different in how they are told, like not different in how like Disney movies and fairy tales and fables are told, like they are true in the morality that you can derive from the stories, from the message and everything, but not true if like Jesus actually rose from the dead, or if Jonah was actually in the belly of a whale. That basically pulling from, and not saying that he is, but just questioning it. And that's what Christians don't like. They didn't like that he was questioning it at all. They wanted him to be affirmative in God's word, and that it was a fact, and that was not up for, of course, preachers can interpret it in many different ways, and they do, a lot of them to their own self-serving, causes, or a way to keep you in fear and those limited belief systems. They don't want you to question it, and that was the criticism, basically, that he was leaving it up to like a C.S. Lewis type of gathering conclusions as far as the true myth, because C.S. Lewis had the true myth, in which he said the story of Christ is a myth, but also historical reality. So it makes it unique in that fact that it was a true myth. But he didn't necessarily think that everything was fact, that it was historical, but also some embellishment, and that it was God expressing himself through human imagination. And Christians did not like that at all. I remember my former father-in-law, who was a pastor, I had given him a C.S. Lewis book. Just by the title and by the back of it, I thought that he would like it. And now that I'm older and I understand more of why Christians would not like C.S. Lewis and how he called it the Bible a true myth. That at the time he was like, he used to call me Care Bear. He was like, Care Bear, why did you give me this? And I was like, I just thought it looked interesting. But now I understand like what a bad thing it was to him. He had already viewed it as bad because C.S. Lewis had even put the term myth on anything coming from the Bible. And yeah, but even though he says, this is why I cherry pick. This is why I don't subscribe to everything in the Bible. Because once, I had started reading it from start to finish, which I haven't finished it. I'm not going to claim that I have, but in Genesis, I'm talking about that it's written about incest and the daughters getting pregnant and getting their dad drunk and getting pregnant by their dad to have babies. So I cherry pick. I go by what is a good moral story. And that is what he talks about, the Christian reviewer talks about, is he doesn't want him to just pull from the morality, that he wants him to take everything as factual and not question anything or say it was imagination or myth or even question it at all. That he criticizes Jordan Peterson for asking, what does this mean? What does this signify? What is the moral of the story? Instead of just taking it literally and not questioning it or trying to say that, well, this could be symbolism for something. It doesn't necessarily mean it's literal or, factual in the way that it was written and that it actually happened this way. I mean, it's written by men. It's not written by God. These are people's accounts. And just like just like it can be interpreted many ways and misinterpreted in many ways, being led is leading as opening you up to being misled, that it could be like the game telephone. And as many times as it was told and seen by different people, they're all going to have different perspectives of it. Perspectives are going to shift the more that it's told, the more that it's interpreted. It's going to change. It's going to change, and it doesn't mean that it's always literal, but as long as it gets you to where you need to go morally and that you can pull that meaning from it and how you should use that in as a guide for how you live your life and to get from point A to point B without being off course. What's wrong with that? Why? Does it take away from what Christianity is trying to do? And if so, is that an agenda? And if so, an agenda, then it defeats the whole purpose of trying to connect with God and trying to grow. It's trying to keep God in a box. It's trying to keep you in a box. It's trying to keep you believing exactly what they want you to believe and not open your mind up to expanding it for other and a greater meaning that could mean the same thing, but it opens you up for growth. You're expanding what it could mean and not just taking it literal and not just taking it for what someone else is telling you, that you are just, the possibilities are endless as far as the moral value that comes from those stories. You don't have to say verbatim, this is exactly how it happened, this is exactly what happened, and I won't question it. You should question everything. And this Christian, the professor of theology, Brad East, was trying to say that it was bad that Jordan questions anything about it or opens it up for you to question yourself what it means. And he says above all else that God is beyond categorization, that he is hyper real, which automatically made me want to give him a standing ovation, because right out the gate he was saying we are making God small, even by calling it God, which he does, like I do. And the only other thing I would want to call it is source or the most high or the divine. I would never want to use it like as demeaning or take God off of a pedestal or not make him enormous. That is the problem with calling it God, that people have been hurt by religion. So calling it God turns them off. A lot of people, like it or not, it does. And they're not opposed to us having a higher power or coming from a power source. But saying God makes a lot of people want to run, like it or not. Whether you haven't been hurt by it or not, a lot of people have faced that very real reality. So in order to reach people, calling it God is not always the way. So that is the only reason why I would ever not want to call it God. But I would call it something bigger than that. And he even says, like, beyond categorization, that words do not even do it justice. We do not have the right vocabulary even to describe how powerful, how divine, how infinite, how awestruck we would be if we acknowledged its actual presence. But this guy, Brad East, so he starts out, giving him props. But he says that Jordan Peterson loves God's word, but what about God? That he is the difference, like to tell if that's where he wants to be or not. And he doesn't claim anything. That's the whole title of the book, is We Who Wrestle with God. He's wrestling with it. He's not saying, I know everything. He's saying, I'm going to question things. Let's pick it apart. Let's unpack this. Let's not take it at face value. Let's just see, if we can still arrive at the same place that we're supposed to be without buying into everything being literal. So why not question anything? And why condemn anybody for questioning anything? If you don't want to be questioned, this is my own personal belief, but if you don't allow yourself to be questioned, then that's a cult. That's a cult. That's what a cult leader does. They don't want to be questioned. Someone that wants you to grow should empower you and encourage you and inspire you to question everything and to go directly to source and find out for yourself. That's why I say, don't be led, be inspired, but still question everything and go directly to your source. But he said that's a slippery slope on theological truth, and that friends of his turned him on to this because they found Jordan Peterson's book and take on things to be a breath of fresh air. And that should tell you so much. If it's a breath of fresh air and somebody is refreshed at this take on it, then that means they're starting to question things already. And this just opened them up to an avenue that they wanted to take, but didn't do it themselves, that someone else inspired them to look at it at a different angle. That's a great thing. They're not turning away from God. They're just looking at it with a different perspective, shifting perspectives, not letting themselves be led by anybody, by using their own brain to think independently and without a way that's putting the veil over their eyes to say, I'm going to keep my head in the sand. This is what I wouldn't be so frowned upon and hated on if I weren't saying this as being someone that's in the Bible Belt. And that's where a lot of my viewers are still before I expand and get out of, this community and the people that were tuning in to me and my channel because they had heard bad things and the smear campaign had reached them, and they'd listened to the gossip and they'd made up their mind about me because of what other people said and not because they knew me or knew what those people said to be true at all. But we are all, those people are in the Bible Belt, and it's very, if I'm saying this in the Bible Belt, I have lived outside, which allowed me to open my mind and question things and see that where I was raised and what I had been told was not it. It wasn't the final end all be all. And that was beautiful. Like these people said about Jordan, very refreshing. And so when I came back from California, I was like, I don't have to believe what all these people believe. I don't have to believe what I've been force fed and what I've been conditioned and indoctrinated into. I don't have to believe that. And they are very closed-minded. Sorry, guys, but you are, if that's all you're wanting to see and keep perpetuating. And that's fine. If you want to, that's fine. But I don't have to do that. And other people don't have to do that. But the reason that I'm so hated on, other than the smear campaign, is because of where I'm saying this and how I'm challenging your belief system. I'm challenging your identity. And that's very uncomfortable for people. But it is not a personal attack at all. At all. I'm telling you that I used to be that, but you don't have to be that. And once you step outside of this Bible Belt mentality and the conditioning and the programming, there's more. There's more. It exists. It's not a put down. It's just that there is more if you allow yourself and make the choice to be open to it. That's all I'm saying. It's not a personal attack. Just because you're wrong about me, I don't care if you are or not, that there may be more out there and that people in California would not be hating on me the way that people around here are hating on me, because they know that already. They know that there's more already. They have not been force-fed unless they come from a place like this or a strict religion or religious community or whatever, and then they've gotten out of it, so now they know different, just like the way that I came to know about it not being the end all be all. Just like having an eyebrow ring here. Before I moved out in California, here I got treated like white trash because I had an eyebrow ring. There wasn't many people around here that had it yet, but when I moved to California, nobody cared because it was more like everybody was doing their own thing out there. Individuality was celebrated, cheered on, encouraged. But here it's not. And just like these, things that I'm talking about with religion, it is not. But still, that doesn't mean that it isn't my take and that I didn't come about this honestly and that I want you to explore it, because the other keeps you small. It keeps you being taken advantage of. It keeps you being manipulated and sometimes even abused. So it's worth looking into. You can make your decision on your own, but it's worth looking into. And with reading this book or even getting the audio book for you to listen to would be a good start. And that's why I'm doing this message. The guy goes on to say that Jordan Peterson reads the Bible exclusively for its moral sense. What's wrong with that? He reveals perseverance in the face of the world's evil, terror, and potential to induce despair. What's wrong with that? It does. It does. We need to persevere in the face of that, because those things, the evil, terror, the fear-based society that we live in, the potential for it to induce despair. If the things that happened to me had actually worked, I would be in despair. I would be stuck and unable to move on. I would not have been able to, with God's help, learn how to live again without the things that I had based my identity around. And that's something that people need to face. You're going to live in a fantasy world where you don't need to persevere, where you need to stay stuck and be in despair. No, he's trying to pull things from the Bible that are moral, that helps you persevere and, push through. There's nothing wrong with that. But in his mind, it defies theological truth. And that's because there's conditioning in going to school for theology and going to seminary. You are being fed you're being indoctrinated, plain and simple. So, you don't want to turn your back on what you paid money to adhere to, that your parents taught you, that your mentors, everyone that you looked up taught you. But there's nothing wrong with that. He's not teaching any evil messages. He's teaching people how to persevere, how to question everything, how to look for moral compass in the stories from the Bible, whether they're true, like literally or not. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's being looked upon as something bad by the Christian community. He examples of how Christians attempt to control and force their beliefs. I've had things around here like when I was in community college, before I went to UTC, I went to Chattanooga State, and they had a psychology club. And the psychology club, once you were in it, you had to have certain grades to be in it. And Jane Goodall came to town. And if you wanted to see Jane Goodall, they would pay for your tickets. So I had asked my former father-in-law, the pastor, who had also gotten his PhD in psychology. He had inspired me to take. I went to school for journalism and writing. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be a columnist. I wanted to be a novelist. And I went to school for that first. And then after I moved back from California, I started all over and started psychology. And so I asked him if he wanted to go with me, and he did. And I did not even think about how Christians around here would try to force their beliefs on us going to see Jane Goodall, this public figure who had done tons of research. But because evolution and the theory of evolution goes against what the Bible says, they showed up and they protested, and they were telling everyone that went in to hear, whether they believed in what she said or not, the fact that she was talking about evolution, they were telling us all that we were going to hell, even by stepping in the Tivoli Theater to hear her speak or be in her presence. And I was like, what? I never ever had. Now I have. I was being part of the smear campaign and having so-called Christians who are supposed to do what Jesus would do hate on me and do horrible things, but it helped me elevate because I needed that. It woke me up. The things that were meant to bury me have elevated me in a way that I never thought possible. And I thank them so much for that. But at this point in my life, I was probably 21, had never ever thought that that was a possibility by going to see Jane Goodall, that I would be told that I was going to hell and that they would be screaming at people, everyone that walked in. And I was like, what? I thought Jesus would inspire people to be loving and, but no, if you don't believe what they believe around here, you're going to hell. And they will go way out of their way, some people, not all of them, to scream at you even and to tell you that you're a horrible person because you don't believe exactly what they believe. That is how rooted they are in their belief system, and that nothing else can exist. And if it does, you are a horrible person for even thinking about it, much less adhering to it or living your life that way. So, that taught me, this is what made me want to look for the Christians' take on it immediately, because I was like, oh my goodness, if they don't like me, I know they're not going to like him saying this, because I've been saying this before I read his book, even though his book probably came out before I made some of these videos, not all of them, but a lot of them. And I was like, I know that they're thinking that he's going to hell, without saying that, though. This guy's not saying it. He didn't go that far. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that, but yeah, he talks about fundamental ambiguity hanging over the entire book, and that the Bible was being reduced to a rules for life, like his other books, the 12 Rules Beyond Order, that he uses his extensive knowledge about the Bible. I mean, he breaks it down. He goes into depth. He's quoting scriptures. He's asking questions. He's making it very interesting, which is why the friend of this reviewer said that it was refreshing, or a breath of fresh air, because he was making the Bible interesting, and it hadn't been interesting to that person that he was talking to before. So, I mean, he makes it super interesting. But the fact that he's questioning anything turns this guy off. And he says, this is how he kind of wraps it up, that it's being seen through a human-focused lens, which why shouldn't it be? But that Christ is reduced to, church is reduced to a vaguely spiritual charity or an activism club, that it loses its reason for being. A godless gospel is scarcely worth living for, much less dying for. An unrisen Christ is no Christ at all. So if you don't believe exactly what it says verbatim, and if you take church to what I think it should be restructured to, as far as, fellowship and not being led by connecting to God yourself, by praying about where your tithes go, or voting on where your tithes go, or just giving your testimony to others, and not taking the Bible to be literal in every single sense, and not questioning a thing about it, or letting someone interpret it however they want to you, and you not questioning a thing about it, or going to source yourself by going within, that it's just a charitable club, an activism club, a spiritual charity, that it loses its being. Why would it lose its being? Why would it lose its reason for being? Why would it not even be worth it? Because there's manipulation involved. To me, that's it. It's plain and simple. If you would have a problem for how Jordan Peterson is looking at it, or the way that I look at it, why would there be a problem with that if it wasn't defying your self-serving purposes for having a church at all, or for having a leader in the church, prophets, preachers, people that gain economically from a church? Why would you have a problem with that if it wasn't doing away with the structure that makes it corrupt, or gives it the potential to be corrupt? That's my thing. And I just wanted to touch a little bit on how I saw Jordan Peterson sat down with Elon Musk once, and he was talking about the supercomputer that he had built in Memphis, which is Memphis, Tennessee. But Elon talks about, and I'm speeding up because this video is getting long, but he talks about Memphis being the capital of ancient Egypt. And then he says for a second that it's possibly where our new God will come from, talking about the divine and technology converging together, that the AI supercomputer makes that possible, and that it may be where our new God will come from. And Jordan Peterson says, I wish that was funny, because Elon laughs at it, and then he laughs at how Jordan says he wishes it were funny. It was just super creepy. So y'all go look up that video on Jordan interviewing Elon, and Elon saying that the supercomputer and combining divine and technology is where our new God will come from. So everybody that's following Trump, that's a conservative and a Christian that loves Elon Musk, go look up that interview between Elon and Jordan. It's very telling about Elon. So even though he goes out here and he says that he's a Christian to gain following and for people to be with him and not go against the grain, the things that he says is insanity. And Jordan basically calls him out on it. He's not being offensive, but he's like, I wish that were funny, because it's scary. It's very scary that he said it. And Jordan says in the book also that that technology, the arrogant belief in technology, corrupts the entirety of psyche and state so completely that words themselves lose their meaning. And that's AI. That's AI in a nutshell. So he talks about that without calling Elon out, but he is not an Elon fan, and he let Elon know that what he was talking about was basically the Antichrist. And that should be scary. All these people that treat Trump like he is he was autographing Bibles. Why is that okay? Why does he have this mass following when he's so in your face? It's just, I just can't do it. I can't do it. But he talks about a lot. Jordan talks about the role of a leader, and I very much adhere to this, and that's what I want to inspire all of you to be when you are having your spiritual awakening, that the role of a leader, that they need to be a good storyteller, and not with fictional things, but pointing out, points of their narrative, to provide framework for understanding the world and making sense of difficult experiences. And that's what I try to do. And that's why I needed this inspiration to just get a second win on my channel, because I don't care how many people watch it. It is here, and it will always be here unless someone takes it down to help others. And I will not let what I've been through be in vain. And I don't want to lead you to follow me. I want to lead you to be the leader of your own discernment and to question everything, to go to God with himself, directly to himself, because he's inside of all of us. All of the answers are already inside of us. So you don't have to go outside of yourself to church. You don't have to go to a preacher, a prophet. You don't have to go outside anywhere. He has prepared you for your life's path. Get on your path, get in your purpose, pray for your purpose. He will help you with that too. But all of the answers to everything that you need are already inside of you. And I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today if I hadn't taken that path and trusted the faith. I moved forward in complete faith in what God was teaching me and where he was telling me to go and what he was telling me to do and not do. And that is the only reason that I'm sitting here talking to you today. So what he said about being a leader just totally inspired me, and I want it to inspire you too. Even if you don't go listen to it, hope that I can give you enough from the notes that I took to get what I'm saying and get what he's saying, because it's the move. It's the move. So the willing to wrestle with God is a metaphor for a struggle with one's own internal demons and the forces of chaos in the world, striving to create a meaningful and ordered reality, confront your own inner struggles and those of others, meaning limitations, fears, doubts, challenges, and the uncertainties of life, because there are many, and you will not know when it's going to happen. You just got to hold on and have faith and be along for the ride. The process of actively engaging with the unknown and striving to make sense of the world, even when the answers are not immediately apparent. critical self-reflection, shadow work. He's all about Yoon. Yoon is about shadow work. So that's what he's talking about, shadow work. Lead by example and strive for a higher purpose. And that's what I'm trying to do. I will let none of what I've been through be in vain. And he let me know while I was resonating with it. He reminded me of how, because I haven't read all of the Bible, and I have read a lot about Abraham. But, I have seen myself in different books of the Bible. Job, I have seen myself in Esther. I have seen myself in Psalms. That's why I stay in Psalms every single day. But Job and Esther, they're right around there. I have drawn, while cherry picking, I have drawn lots of things that have resonated with me from the Bible, and I hold those near and dear to my heart. But he talks about Abraham and his covenant with God, his promise to him about leaving his comfort zone and the process of sacrifice and establishing the wealth of reputation within standing in your truth and speaking your story. He got to be the permanent definition of fatherhood, Abraham did, and create a dynasty. And with each stage, with each level of him leaving his comfort zone, that he became a new person. He gave him a new name. So he embraced the spirit of adventure and sacrifice, his own son to God. And, talking about how sacrifice of children is the highest thing that you could do. And he says that if you do it properly, that you would get them back. That would mean, sacrificing your relationship with them depending on you, and making them more confident and stable in the world. So I don't know. I very much resonated with that, because I have let my children go. There's nothing that I could do but surrender to my journey and the things that God told me that he was making possible. He had to let it happen. The things that they tried to do to me that he didn't let happen, didn't happen. I shouldn't be here talking to you today if he had let all of the things happen, if he had let me fall in any of those pits that they dug for me, if he hadn't taken all the swords out of my back, if he had let me, be caught up or entrapped in any of the traps or nets that they laid for me. He didn't let any weapon formed against me prosper, and anything that he let happen was happening for me and not to me, and I will not let it be in vain. I'm going to tell my story and the importance of the sacrifices that I made, and if I do this properly, then I will get those things back. I will get them back and more. That I will get to tell my story to others, and so will my son, and hopefully my other son, that we will get to share, how we were strong, how we were stoic, how it built character, how it showed us how strong we were, and how we depended on God to get us through, because that's all that we needed. That's all that we needed. We didn't need anybody else whenever we felt isolated or bullied or ganged up on or lied to or manipulated or abused or anything. That all we needed was God. And if we turned within, he would show us the way. And he did with me. I can't speak for them, because I had to let go. And I don't even see my son. I haven't even gotten to talk to him in a while. They have taken all of that from me in the name of it being his idea, even though he contacts me on his own until they make him block me in his phone. So I know the difference, but I had to let go. I had to be prepared to do this, because otherwise it would have killed me, and I wouldn't have been able to take one step or breathe one breath, or my heart to keep going, to have inspiration, to keep doing this for others, to keep doing this for myself, to be an example to them, to follow, to not crumble and not be what they wanted me to be, because how is that going to help anybody? It's not. And I'm not going away. I haven't aborted my mission. I haven't failed it, and I haven't given up on it, and I never will, because I am going to be the example. And Jordan also talks about that, to put your own needs and desires aside for the greater good. And that's what I'm doing, especially with this channel. I could be doing this quietly. I could not have spoken my truth. I had not stepped into my power and used my voice for good, which is not spreading hate. It's empowering all of you to do the same thing that I'm doing, because you can. With God's help, you can. Anything is possible. If I could do it, you could do it. Facing setbacks, enduring hardships, create meaning in a chaotic world, not content with simply surviving, creating something valuable and enduring, building strong communities, fostering innovation, and promoting strong sense of purpose. That's what a leader is. And that's what I strive to be for all of you. I don't want you to follow me. I want you to lead yourself. I want to empower you to see your own potential in being that leader for yourself, leader of your own discernment, leader of your own reality, creator that I am, going within and realizing how powerful and how strong you are because you are part of God. So don't put yourself in a box. I want you all to be your own leader. I want you all to be strong and making every moment count, even if you're just recharging for the comeback. It's not about the setback, it's about the comeback, and you all have it in you. I love you. God loves you. You're never alone. I'm sorry this was so long, but it's a really beautiful thing. Go check out that book, even if on audiobook, and look at it, because anything that they criticized about it was only because it challenged the structure and hierarchy of a church, and they don't want that. That scares them to death. Bye.